I wanted to thank you all for joining us today, for wanting to learn a little bit more about the Law Pathways program at Fresno City College. And I did want to make it clear that we shouldn't be confused with the guided pathways framework that's been adopted on campus. I know because of our name, it can get a little bit confusing. So before we begin, I wanted to ensure that you're in speaker view first. And then what you probably want to do after is, especially once we get to the student panel, you'll likely want to switch it to gallery view. Right, so I don't know if many of you know who I am, but my name is Ku Vu. I am a political science instructor, and I recently became the faculty champion for the Law Pathways program. And I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucely Rosas, and I am the Law Pathways Counselor, and I also teach Counseling 53 and Counseling 54 for the program.
Hi, everyone. Matt Espinosa Watson. I teach in Chicano Latino Studies, the former faculty champion for the program, and I continue teaching the American Studies 11 Law and Democracy course for the program.
Hi, I'm Logan Tanarelli. I also teach American Studies every other semester with Matt for the program. I'm the former counseling champion for the program and Dean of Students at San Joaquin College of Law.
And we can get started. So really quickly then, what is the Law Pathways program? Just to give you kind of a little bit of a background. So one of the things that you should know is that the state of California already, right? If we live here, we know that we are a majority minority state. So with about 60% of the population made up of persons from racial ethnic minoritized groups. Fresno, for instance, is the 5th largest city in California and really one of the most racially and ethnically diverse regions in the state, but it's also one of the most impoverished. Excuse me. So the California Bar Association reports that only about 20% of lawyers identify as coming from a racially minoritized group. And this number hasn't been increasing at a pace that is rapid enough to reflect the general population. So understanding these demographic characteristics, we can then kind of see the importance of, why we have this program. Really because diverse representation is necessary to help build that public trust and confidence. And especially coming from political science, we know that descriptive representation is really important because it really then, again, helps that build that public trust, right? When we see individuals who look like us in certain, positions or professions, it makes us feel a lot better, right? Especially somebody, for instance, from my background, I never saw individuals who looks like me in different professions that I was interested in. So then the purpose of the Law Pathways program is to really help diversify the legal field and provide a pathway to a law education for community college students. Some of the benefits that come from being a part of the program include things like special admissions consideration at participating law schools. And what you'll see here is that we have, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, Santa Clara. We also have a local agreement with the San Joaquin College of Law, who are part of the program. So additional things that students get out of participating in the program, again, I already mentioned things like, being given special admissions consideration, but what we also try to help do is we try to help facilitate student exposure to professionals in the field, like lawyers and judges. Next slide.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of the program. And so just try to be brief. Essentially, to talk about the idea that the law school pathway has been on our campus since 2015. And it comes out of the state bar, in particular, the Council on Access and Fairness of the state bar. And the idea was to create a pipeline for college students, for students from diverse backgrounds, being also limited by the fact that California Bar is a state agency. And so it's limited by things like Prop 209 in terms of the ending of affirmative action that happened back in the 90s. So in order to outreach to the most diverse pool of possible law students possible, the idea was to go to where that diversity is at the community colleges, right? And so the idea is you can see the what's highlighted here: leadership, access, workforce, and get a sense of how the statewide nature of the program. I can go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to share a little bit just about a very tiny amount on the background in terms of how I got involved. And that was when our former president, Tony Cantu, was president of Fresno City College. And this opportunity came to his desk, essentially, right, as the president of the institution. He sent an email out to, I don't remember how many people, 7 or 8 of us on campus who he knew had law degrees. Even myself, who wasn't teaching in a law-related area, but he knew I had a law background. And to let us know about this opportunity to apply to be part of this new statewide pathway program. I just basically share the short version is about a week or 10 days passed and nobody had responded, is my sense. And so President Cantu sent something out, follow up, being like, so nobody wants to be part of this. And that, for me at least, was my impetus to get involved. I was like, I don't know if I have time, if that's exactly where I want to be or what I want to be working on. And yet it seemed like too good of an opportunity to pass up for our students and for our region, really. And so I just share that to give you that sense, because it's really because of President Cantu that we have the program to begin with. And then Dean Miracle, who was my dean at the time, Peg Miracle, was immediately on board and super enthusiastic about applying for it, helping us coordinate letters of support from local elected officials, and really just kind of coordinating our application along with President Cantu. And so next slide, please. And then I just share, early support also that was crucial coming from Dean Cuevas and Lori Natal in counseling, which really eventually led to the hiring of Logan, which was a big turning point, is giving a counselor who was dedicated for the program. And we've had a lot of enthusiastic local support. We'll talk more about some of them later, right? And the one other thing I wanted to share was basically that Dean Miracle, along with Carrie Ibarra and myself, worked on an interdisciplinary pre-law degree that really never ended up being a degree a lot of students pursued on our campus. Yet it was the framework and very much the direct model for what ended up being a statewide law public policy degree for transfer, right? That's now a statewide degree. And so the degree that was created by Dean Miracle was, again, I don't know, that never really went anywhere on our campus, yet it ended up being an inspiration for the kind of the statewide model in a sense. So I think that's the main pieces I wanted to share with you all. I'm happy to answer questions about the program and stuff, but that's some of the context and just a little of the campus history that I wanted to share with you all.
Thank you so much, Professor Watson. So what are the Cal Law Scholar required courses? The required coursework is made up of 7 general education courses and 2 elective courses for students of any major. The 7G courses are English 1A, Political Science 2, American Studies 11, and they also get to choose between Math 42, Math 11, and DS 23, and a US History class, which they can choose between History 11 or History 12. There is also 2 additional elective courses required for the program, which are Counseling 53 and Counseling 54. As mentioned in the previous slide, students of any major are eligible to join the Law Pathways program. In fact, given the legal field's wide range of career opportunities, no particular major is recommended or required by the Law Pathways program or by law schools. So students of any major could become Cal Law Scholars while completing their major that they started with. In addition to the Cal Law Scholar Certificate, students also have the option to complete our associate's degree for transfer in Law, Policy, and Society. The great thing about this associate's degree for transfer is that most of the major requirements for the degree are met with the 7 required law pathway courses, which all double count for GE. The only 3 additional courses required for the associate's degree for transfer are BA 18, Crim 6, and Philosophy 1C, and Philosophy 1C can also be used for GE. That being said, students who select our associate's degree for transfer in law, public policy, and society can easily double major at Fresno City College. So what are the requirements for the Law Pathways program and how do students get started? Since this is a community college initiative, students must attend Fresno City College. Additionally, to be eligible to petition for the Cal Law Scholar Certificate, students must maintain good academic standing. And once enrolled in the program, students will need to successfully complete the required pathway courses with a C or better grade in each course and with an overall 3.0 or better GPA in the required coursework. Please keep in mind all required coursework must be completed at the community college level. Finally, students are also required to meet with me to complete a student education plan, which will include the required coursework for the program. So how do students get started? The easiest way is for students to go on our website to submit an interest form online. This will immediately notify us that they are interested in our program, or they can also send us an email at lawpathways@fresnocitycollege.edu. Now we will go on to our awards.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to quickly answer a question in the chat. Great question. And I know we have a bunch of people, or a couple people at least, here from the paralegal program, and lots of students in the paralegal program who become interested in the pathway. So I just wanted to address that. I could be out of date on this information because it's been a while since I was in the counseling role, but I believe if a student's already getting an associate's degree, in addition to the classes required, specifically for our law pathway, the American Studies 11, there might be a couple more in terms of math. If they can still take that math 101, they'll need to add statistics. But sometimes, especially if we catch them early, they can just take stats if they're ready and fill both of those at the same time. Maybe a few other requirements, but in general, they are totally welcome to get both degrees. Then if they're transferring to a 4-year institution, they'll pick a different major, maybe some sort of pre-law major or something else, since there isn't that paralegal component. At the 4 years, our program is awesome. They'll have all the paralegal stuff that they need. Alternatively, they could apply straight with San Joaquin College of Law without getting that 4-year degree. All of the other law schools in the program and any ABA school is going to require a bachelor's degree as well. So pretty easy for them to overlap. At the same time, we're careful to advise people, if you want to start working, you already have this awesome paralegal degree, do it a few years, think about whether you really want to go to law school and take on more education or not, but definitely an option for them to get both degrees. Does that answer the question, Camille?
If I may, is Peter Wassmiller, the chair of the paralegal program. I've had students in the last, I've been at this for about 5.5 years, and I've had students do both. I mean, well, it's not really doing both. It's if they're pursuing an AS degree in the paralegal program and they can add these in as part of their general ed, because they can get a certificate and an AS degree or either. So, and the AS is simply adding general ed courses to the certificate program. So we've had several. I couldn't count right now off the top of my head, but.
Correct. And we also have the opportunity now to, students can now complete the associate's degree, our local associate's degree paralegal one, now with the CSUGE pattern or with IGETC. So they're already meeting the transfer requirements, and that was lacking before. That was able to be done. So now students can, instead of just doing our local GE pattern with the paralegal associate's degree, they can now choose to do the CSUGE pattern to graduate with that degree.
Right. And the what was it? Oh, and the paralegal courses transfer. So I mean, just so you know, they're transferable and have been for a long time. So as for San Joaquin going directly in, that's not as easy, I think, as Logan makes it sound, right, Logan? I mean, if you don't have a bachelor's,
right? So
if you don't have a bachelor's, you guys kind of have to, you up the ante on them a little bit for some other things, I think. As I recall, because some of my students have graduated from paralegal program have a bachelor's degree already, or as one of them who's burning up the bushes is San Joaquin. Raquel, she graduated from Fresno State and the paralegal program at the same time in 2020 with both an AS and a certificate. So she kind of was ready and raring to go, but but anyway, so that's.
Yeah, a lot of students who are already at the bachelor's level will come back and take a few extra courses to go ahead and get that. But yeah, absolutely. If someone's applying straight away from paralegal, the school's usually looking at if it's someone who's further along in their career, has had a lot of writing experience, has, not usually a 22-year-old who just graduated from city and has not yet worked, right? And sometimes looks for higher on that LSAT as well, just to ensure students are prepared to take on a really rigorous program.
Right. Also, the flip side is, as I understand, paralegal students do get an extra look over someone who doesn't have a bachelor's at the same time because they've been through the program and graduated from it. Plus, if I may throw a plug in for San Joaquin, they also let our students use their library, which is, they don't let everybody else use their library. So that's always been a great relationship.
Thank you. Always appreciate the plug, especially
Had a
from a
couple of
former alum.
Right, and had a couple of interns have worked at in the international clinic too as interns for the program here. So that's been a good relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. If has students interested in working with the New American Legal Clinic, which is focused on immigration services, completely free of charge to the population, or our Bren Clinic, which is focused on disability law and offers free classes for any parent, administrator, teacher about advocating for an IEP, let me know. You and your students are always welcome to be involved. I also just want to clarify that, especially when I'm wearing my Fresno City College hat, and I think our students can attest to this, I say, go to the best law school you can get into, go get your 4-year degree. Even though I work at SJCL, I am not trying to funnel students into it. I think we're a great option for students who are committed to staying in the area, whether because of family, et cetera, or need to work full-time while they're in law school, but always careful to continue to consider what's best for everyone. And this statewide pathway is not something SJCL is a part of. We're part of the local regional pathway, which leads me into our awards section. So our regional pathway is based on the Cal Law pathway. It requires the same courses, is a really similar setup, but is with local schools. So it's with Bullard High School, Fresno City College, Fresno State, and San Joaquin College of Law. So the focus there in the regional pathway is a couple of things. One, having an advisory council we share with the statewide pathway component, but also really focusing on our community and people who plan to stay here so that they can continue to be part of the same program if they want to. So our regional pathway was awarded the 2020 State Bar of California Education Pipeline Award. This is an award by the State Bar that focuses on enrollment, how much you're doing, what type of program you have, a bunch of different factors. So a long application process. Past winners have been through the Center for Youth Development at Berkeley, the UCLA Law Fellows Program, which I've had students in our Fresno City College Law Pathway get the UCLA Law Fellow Award, and then they get free LSAT prep and scholarship money. The Department of Fair Employment and Housing Educational Partners and California Justice Corps, among others. So it was the first time our region was specifically awarded a pipeline award, and a really big honor. And at the Pathway to Law Summit in February, we had acceptance speeches from our own Dr. Carol Goldsmith, from the principal at Bullard, the president at State, and our dean at San Joaquin College of Law. Next slide, please. The Fresno City College was also awarded the 2021 State Bar Diversity Award. This was based mainly on the demographics, not only of our community, but our program as well. Lucelli and Koo compiled statistics on what our actual Cal Law Scholar program at Fresno City College looks like. And it had roughly 84% of the students identified as people of color, which is obviously much bigger even than our community at large. So that was part of the basis. And just to re-emphasize what Professor Wu said. It's especially important, I think, in our region for students not only to consider law as an option, but simply to know their rights in terms of interacting with police, interacting with ICE and immigration services, even if they ultimately decide not to pursue that law degree. It's really valuable information. And a lot of students who come to the program don't know where to start or haven't had lawyers in their family, are first generation college students. So the idea of getting to know lawyers and recognizing that just because there aren't a lot of people who look like you in the California bar isn't a reason to stay away from it. It's a reason to actually show up, because we want people who are representing clients locally and meeting legal need to be people who can understand and empathize, and law schools want a diversity of experiences, ideas in the classroom. It's in the interest of everyone's education for there to be different perspectives and an open dialogue amongst students. So the Diversity Award was also a huge honor for Fresno City College. So our next slides are what has contributed to the success of our program. While I think the statewide pathway and the special admissions consideration and all of the advantages the program gives are really important, I think the local connections are sometimes even more important for students to not only get to know attorneys and participate in programs and initiatives here, but also because they get counseling from Lucelli and guided resources as well, and get to really develop that relationship, which, while not as tangible, I think is the best part of the program. We'll see what our students say later in the panel, which is the best part of our presentation. So hang in there if you're sick of listening to me talk about this. But earlier, just last month, we participated with the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of California, the Federal Bar Association, and the Fresno County Women Lawyers Association as part of a presentation on women in leadership, how to become and thrive as a leader. This program featured the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, Chief Justice Cantil, the Ninth Circuit Judge Consuelo Callahan, and United Way, Fresno and Madera President and CEO Lindsay Fox. And they asked us to have two participants who are highlighted, their stories are highlighted, and they got to actually ask questions to the Chief Justice and the other people on the panel, which is a huge honor. And that was our SJCL 4L, Rosa Orahel, as well as Zofia Trexler, who I had in my American Studies class last semester and is getting her Cal Law certificate in May. So this sort of thing, being asked to participate and having students get an opportunity to meet the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, is the kind of opportunity that I think makes the biggest impact on students. We also have our Municipal Court Student Advocacy Project. In 2019, it was unanimously passed by the Fresno City Council, and it allows our law pathway students to get hands-on experience where they actually get to represent an appellant at a municipal hearing and help with things like presenting evidence, walking appellants through what the hearing process will look like, communicating with opposing counsel from the city of Fresno. So it's really the only experience that I'm aware of in the entire statewide program where students get legal experience. This was allowed because our Fresno Municipal Code allows any layperson to represent someone at a municipal hearing, but for students to actually get to work with attorneys and show up in court to advocate for someone is a great opportunity. The administrative citations that are being appealed are sometimes related to substandard housing or landlord-tenant issues, dog licensing and barking violations, illegal dumping, illegal firework use, and illegal vending or licensing with respect to food trucks, things like that. And while these aren't necessarily the criminal cases that some of our students might someday go on to choose, they're really important to the people who are actually litigating them, and sometimes thousands of dollars in fines themselves. And to get to be part of advocating is such an exciting experience that even something like illegal dumping that might not sound as enticing ends up being a really awesome opportunity for students. And I wanted to ask if our student panelist, Amanda Darby, she was recently a student advocate and did an amazing job. I wanted to ask if she could speak briefly to what that experience was like.
I sure can. Thank you very much, Logan. It was a great experience. Let me tell you, not so sure of myself going into this profession, but getting to work hands-on with legal professionals and seeing how things go really boosted my confidence. The feedback was amazing. I really became assured this program was great. Working with the appellant, getting to help and just really preparing myself for what I'm getting into. It was a game changer for me. So I really enjoyed the program a lot.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And Amanda not only was doing an opening and closing statement that we could help her prepare, but actual examination and cross-examination that requires people to be a little more spontaneous, and did a truly amazing job with that.
Thank you very much.
Other initiatives and opportunities, Fresno City College hosted the National Lawyers Guild Conference for the West Coast at our school back in 2019, when we were all living in our pre-COVID world and got to actually come to things in person. We had a student panel put together by 9 of our now Cal Law scholars. They completely did their own work on this. I was like, I can write a proposal for a panel for you. And the student said, no, this is part of our learning process. We want to do this together, which I thought was really amazing. And they gave a really interesting panel on their own experiences, what interested them in the law, why they thought diversity in the legal profession was important. Caleb Charles was one of our presenters there. So I was wondering, Caleb, if you could speak briefly to that.
Thank you, Logan. Hi, everybody. My name is Caleb Charles. To speak on this, it was a wonderful experience to be able to attend this conference with the sole mission of diversifying the legal field. As we all know, it is imperative that people see themselves and the representation that they ask for. And it was a great experience. I appreciate being there, and my story was able to be shared. I'm a double minority. I'm half Hispanic and Haitian American. So I have a unique perspective, having grown up as such. And, I've always wanted to become a lawyer, since I was 10 years old, seeing the civil rights, learning about the civil rights movement. As we can see, Thurgood Marshall is up above here, watching over us all. And so, yeah, something I found to struggle with was I didn't know what the steps were to become a lawyer. I knew how to get a bachelor's degree, but I didn't know exactly how it all worked. So I went to the counseling office, and that's when I met Logan. And she really just showed me the way. And I became a Cal Law scholar, graduated Fresno City College with an AA in Law Public Policy Society, Fresno State, Philosophy Pre-Law, summa cum laude honors. And I'm working at the law office of Kevin G. Little now, all thanks to the Law Pathway program for setting me on this course. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. And we'll get to hear more from Caleb and Amanda, as well as 2 other students, Janelle and Cynthia, very shortly. But all of our students were able to attend the conference free of charge, hear from groups like Kids in Need of Defense, CCLS, lawyers throughout the state. So it was a great opportunity. We have students complete service learning hours as part of our Counseling 54 class. We've had students work with the New American Legal Clinic, as Professor Wassermiller mentioned, as well as Central California Legal Services, Leadership Council for Justice, California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, and more, as well as do those municipal court hearing hours for their service learning components. We also have ongoing development of an internship and job shadowing job board for high school, community college, and Fresno State students, which we are hoping to launch soon on our SJCL website. So students interested in interning have somewhere they can go and see attorneys who might be open to taking them on.
And then the other thing that we wanted to highlight is that we have an advisory council that includes representatives from schools and notable individuals in the profession. These are all individuals who are in the area. So we have amazing people like the Honorable Judge Ana de Alba. We also have Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp on board. So we have individuals from FUSD. So part of our success has really been that it's been a holistic effort. Not only has it been individuals on campus. There's Cal Law Inc., which is the statewide organization, but we have individuals who are in the profession who also recognize the same needs and are actually very enthusiastic to be a part of the program. And so the advisory council then serves as, or the primary role then is to really help oversee and assist us in the law pathway program through things like developing the professional curriculum. So they're, our connection to the profession. This is how we can expose students to, the professions, the individuals who are currently in the area that they want to eventually be a part of.
I was just going to briefly add to that all of these people on our advisory council always indicate they're happy to come talk to classes as well, have people come watch them, our judges, watch an actual part of a trial that they are the judge for. So if any of you are interested in that for your class or for particular students, feel free to reach out to us because I'm sure they would love to have that even for classes that are not currently part of the pathway.
All right, thank you, Logan. So as Logan mentioned earlier, in addition to our statewide Cal Law pathway, we have a regional pathway between Fresno City College, Bullard High School, Fresno State, and our local law school, San Joaquin College of Law. The great thing about this local partnership is that we work with the high schools and do presentations for their juniors and their seniors. Sometimes the teachers over there invite us to some of their students' presentations to be like judges. They do like little mock trials. So we have that collaboration, and they send me students when they're like, okay, this student for sure wants to do the law pathways program. The teachers over there send them over to us. And then the great thing about our partnership with San Joaquin College of Law is that they help our students no matter what law school they're wanting to go to. They are able to guide them as far as LSAT prep. They invite them to their free LSAT prep nights. And they also guide them with the application process because it's so overwhelming sometimes for our students, which the majority of them are first generation. They don't have anybody in their family that went through this process before. So it's really nice to have that partnership with our local law school as well. And Logan's always willing to meet with students as well. It doesn't matter if they're wanting to go to San Joaquin College of Law or to another top law school. And some of our students that we have in our panel can also speak on that. And that's it.
So again, I think, we're just kind of circling back to some of the supporters and some of the folks who have been really helpful in making the program, thrive really over the past years. And so Dr. Carol Goldsmith, who's now our chancellor, obviously, Sherilyn Krill Hornsby, who's the current dean of social sciences, the late dean of counseling, as I said, Monica Cuevas. Kuvu and Luceli have been amazing in their current roles as the faculty and counseling champion. And then the Cal Law is a nonprofit that got started out of the Council on Access and Fairness from the State Bar. But the State Bar has been there, and certain individuals who have been involved have been really helpful over the years. Ruthie Ashley is one who's stands out from the State Bar, who's helped connect us with some of those judges and other people locally as well as we started off. And so, and then again, the partnering local schools we've already, I think, been discussing. So yeah, next slide.
So in terms of the measures of success, right? How do we know that the program is hopefully doing what it's supposed to, and have we been successful? We've only recently started to collect data, but from what we can tell is that enrollment in the program has been increasing. So for instance, the data that I have up for you is, is just from last year. But in spring 2020, we know that we had 84 students who were active and enrolled, and the numbers since then has increased to, in spring 2021, it was 113. And then just last semester, we had 113 students active and enrolled. Down below, we have in spring 2021, individuals who graduated and were deemed Cal Law Scholars. What this means is that they completed the required courses with a 3.0 or above. In spring, we had 18 individuals, and these are the schools that they decided to go to. A lot of them, you can see, stayed local. This is one of the reasons why, the local agreement is so important. And then nearly half went to schools outside the region. So already we can say that, we are contributing to, diversifying the legal field. Ultimately, one of the measures of success is, how many of them maybe will choose to become lawyers. The other thing that I wanted to note then is that we've been really working towards trying to get this program up and running. And so far, a lot of that has been possible because of the efforts of individuals like, for instance, Matt and Logan. Lucely and I refused to let them go even if they tried to. And so this is, you can see why, we're still all doing this presentation together, because we, again, all believe in the program.
So now we are on to, as promised, the best part of the presentation for today. We have 4 students with us to speak to their own experience of being part of the Cal Law program. They are all Cal Law scholars already. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we have Caleb Charles, Amanda Darby, Janelle Mayberry, and Cynthia Salazar. And for you 4, as we go and ask questions, I will just keep with the same order that's listed here so that we don't have any confusion on Zoom. But I wanted to start with asking each of you to introduce yourself and share a little about where you're at in your educational journey right now. And since we highlighted the possibility of getting dual degrees with us, what degrees you got at Fresno City College. So Caleb,
Good
we'll start
morning.
with, yeah.
Thank you, Logan. Good morning, everyone. My name is Caleb Charles. I already introduced myself. But yeah, at Fresno City College, I earned the AA in Law, Public Policy, and Society with highest honors. I also was able to transfer to Fresno State University, where I studied philosophy. It was the Law Pathway program that had one of the required courses in the Law Pathway program was critical reasoning and analytical writing. And that was when I made my introduction to philosophy. And from there, it's just my love for philosophy bloomed when I went to Fresno State and I started taking philosophy classes because of how interesting and how intriguing this field of study really is. I like to mix in law and philosophy and kind of just, play to philosophize, I guess, with law and philosophy. And so that's kind of my thing. So yeah, I graduated as a student of distinction for the Fresno State Philosophy Department, Dean's Medalist for the College of Arts and Humanities. And now I am working at the law office of Kevin G. Little. He's a civil rights attorney here in the Central Valley. I work on his cases with him as an apprentice. Types of cases we work on are, personal injury, civil rights claims, wrongful termination, discrimination, employment discrimination, things of that sort. And it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor, and truly it's been a wonderful experience. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Amanda? Oh, you're...
Hello, I'm here. My name is Amanda Darby, and I am currently in the process of applying for San Joaquin College of Law to start in August of 2022, which is this year now. I am one of those people that don't have a BA, but I graduated with an AA in philosophy because philosophy and logic that's my passion. And I'm 34, so I'm different because I'm one of those people who, didn't think, I'm not young, but I have a whole bunch of life experience. So it makes things kind of, I second guess myself a lot because of that. But the Law Pathways program has been confidence boosting. It has made my goals and my path so much more clear. Just not knowing what I want to do in life, and then having the chance to go back to school and be guided and especially with the counseling classes that are part of the program, they are so beneficial because they give you insight as to what happens in law school and what you should be ready for. So I think this program is absolutely amazing because it really fine-tuned and my goals for myself. I want to be a criminal not defense attorney, but a criminal lawyer one day. And hopefully, just make a difference in the world. And, maybe I can be a model for somebody who is just like me, who thinks that just because, you have a family and whatnot, that you might not be able to do something that's your dream. My brothers are all in law enforcement. down south, and I wanted to do something also on that side of the line. So this program has been amazing for me, and I just look forward to an exciting future in law.
Thank you, Amanda. We look forward to your 2022 application at SJCL. Janelle?
Hello, everybody. Forgive me for my medium. I'm coming from Fillmore, and it was imperative for me to involve myself in this. And I would like to say thanks to Professor Matt, Professor Vu, Logan, and Lucelli, because they reached out, and I could come on here and say anything, and that shows the confidence in this program. And so my name is Janelle Mayberry, and I graduated from Fresno City in law and public policy and society in 2020, and I got my communications major, and I transferred to FPU thanks to the help of Professor Vu. She helped me to really tone in on what to look for when applying for colleges. And FPU provides what I need to as an asset to what I want to do. And it got the all of the internships, all of the things that I need to move forward with the law program. And the law program pathway has been actually great. It really opened the door for my confidence for what I can do, because I'm from the west of Fresno, and becoming a lawyer or a police officer or a fireman even, it's like a dream. It's like a dream in the sense of like, that's what you want to be when a kid, but it's, you get regular jobs growing up. Like I was a cook and I'm a security. And so I'm thankful for this program. I'm getting into helping women, or not just women, but people who is abused, to find homes. I'm getting in that this semester for FPU. And I don't really have nobody in law and family. My mom is from Little Rock. Them videos we see on when the segregation, she was there at that time. My dad's parents is from Oklahoma, and they had to leave from there. So I don't have really nothing to fall back on to get information for this type of program. And Professor Vu, Logan, Matt, they all been great in helping me to see all the opportunities that are available and how I can do my part to add to providing more diversity aspects to law and things. So it's been a great experience, and I look forward to it.
Thank you so much, Janelle. We are the ones who want to thank you and all our panelists for being here. And I know you've all blown us away in class. Janelle did an especially awesome summary of a Supreme Court case when I got to have him in class, unfortunately virtually, but nonetheless, such a good experience. Cynthia?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Salazar. I graduated from Fresno City College in spring of 2021 with an AA in Law, Public Policy, and Society with highest honors on the Dean's List. And I'm currently at UC Berkeley. I'm studying Gender and Women's Studies. And this summer, I will be starting a minor in Race and the Law, which I'm really excited about. It's a new minor in Berkeley, and I'm really excited, especially as I'm studying intersectionality within race, feminism, and culture in gender and women's studies. Want to continue that within my minor. I don't know, I'm so happy to be here and speaking to everybody about the Law Pathways program. It's definitely a program that I talk to everybody about, and I contribute it to all my success and everything that I'm doing. Just because I feel like if I wouldn't have joined the Law Pathways program, thanks to Logan, I honestly don't know where I'd be. Logan was super encouraging the minute that they met me. So it's been great to be a part of the program, and being part of the Law Pathways program has opened so many doors for me within the Berkeley community, but also like within volunteering for legal clinics in LA. And yeah, I'm just excited for the program and to see so many people finally joining it, and yeah, excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And on behalf of Matt and I, go Bears. We hope you've loved your time at Berkeley. I'm sure you will and are. Okay, so I wanted to ask you guys what shaped your decision to pursue law. I know you've addressed that a little bit, but any particular experiences you've had with the law, or people who've inspired you, or if you're someone who's always wanted to be a lawyer, like I know Caleb, you said since you were 10. So just a little bit about that choice as a career. Caleb?
Being an advocate for the most vulnerable populations in our society has been my dream ever since I was 10 years old. From a young age, I've recognized injustices in society. I've seen it, even I've experienced it as I've grown up, having come from a predominantly white community, being one of 8 Black students, young men growing up. I've seen a lot of, racism, discrimination, and it has shaped me. It's made me stronger. It's helped me to find myself, and along with that came my passion for justice. And so with that, I knew that becoming a lawyer is my purpose. It's what I'm supposed to do, And so all thanks to the Law Pathway program, I've been able to be set on this path to be in the process of applying to multiple law schools. Something I'd always dreamed of, but I haven't able to be in that stage of my life yet. And I am eternally grateful to all of you, Logan, Matt, Lucely, Ku. You guys are all wonderful, and I appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much. I promise we did not script this, and these students would be as amazing without us. So just like Janelle said, we didn't ask them to say that. They're just being very generous. How about you, Amanda? What made you decide to pursue law?
Well, like I said, my brothers are all law enforcement. I grew up with that. Being a police officer was something I used to want to do, but then I thought, maximize my talents. I read the great books of the Western world. I try to, live my life, at the best way possible. And I have a very strong sense of justice and balance. And I don't see things, one-sided. Whenever I'm encountering any type of situation that needs mitigation or anything like that, I can always see, all of the perspectives. And I think that's really important. And being good at that is something that I wasn't aware of, but I was told by people. And I decided to use that to help, to contribute to society. And I think that, entering the profession of law and being a voice for people that need it, because let's all face it, the legal field to the lay people it's an intimidating thing. And you don't want to feel like you're up against, people, you go to talk to a lawyer or something like that. And, a lot of people are intimidated, but I think that I think that all of these gifts that I've been given, or my talents, would be best put to use in this field. And that is why I decided to be a lawyer. But in general, becoming a lawyer is an intimidating process. And the Law Pathways program it helps to clarify that. And it really, really strengthened my desire to do this with the municipal court project and everything like that. So it's gotten me more excited about it. And now whereas before I was skeptical a little bit about what I wanted to do, now it's for sure. And it has to do with, just like I said, wanting to maximize my talents and doing so in a way that I can help, benefit society as it is continually evolving. We always have to, be willing to adapt and go with it. And so that is exactly why I want to be a lawyer.
Thank you so much, Amanda. You mentioned, it might be intimidating to talk to a lawyer. I think people meet Matt and I, and they're like, they're lawyers. But that's part of the beauty of the program. Lawyers don't all look or sound one way. Okay, so Janelle, how about you? What made you want to go into law?
To piggyback on what they said, like I always really wanted to be in law, but what really pushed me is dealing with it. Like I always, people try to get out of jury duty. I like going to jury duty, and like I've been on the side of being cross-examined on it, and I was unfortunately a part of the I say scam, where a lot of students, thousands, hundreds of thousands of students got misled in colleges, and so I owed like $40,000 for credits that didn't transfer and all that, and so I was getting, though they shut down the schools and things, I was still getting garnishes and things. And it just felt like going through these situations, it just feel like it's nobody to turn to look at. And I don't want to move too far ahead of the program, but just when I got the path to get involved in law again, I couldn't resist it, like, because we need like diversity in the field, and it's absolutely essential to me, in my opinion, to really have the most prosperity we can have in this country. So it really pushed me to get into it more.
Thank you, Janelle. And that's heartbreaking, and that kind of debt can destroy someone's life. And you're taking that and using it as motivation to want to help other people is so inspiring. And I know Matt and I both have used The Color of Law and the new Jim Crow in our American Studies classes, and focused on the way that systemic racism and privilege has been part of our society, and that students see that and want to make a difference is the best part of being a teacher. I think all of us here who are teachers can probably agree on that. Cynthia, what made you want to go into law?
As cliche as it might sound, I watched Legally Blonde as a kid and was like, yes, like that's definitely what I want to do. But on a more serious note, I grew up watching my parents struggle finding legal representation, specifically within immigration services. And even as a kid, I knew like what that meant and how much it was needed. So even just watching my parents struggle, seeing my family struggle, made me realize that there really wasn't any representation, especially within the Latino community, for attorneys to represent us. So since I like was a kid and saw that, knew that I like wanted to be in a position of power where I could help my community. So in the end, for me, becoming an attorney is really just about giving back to those who shaped me as I was younger, and wanting to pursue immigration and civil rights as an attorney. Even though I did do a little bit of immigration law during the summer, it was really hard. So I might reconsider that a little bit.
Yeah, it is a complicated area of law, but yeah, and just knowing Cynthia, she, had been out of school for a little while, had worked in her dad's smog shop, had become a manager at Lush, and seeing like right away what she was capable of and where she's come and where I know she's gonna show us she'll continue to go as she goes on. Again, it's such an honor, and I think really shows the way that individuals in our area who maybe don't have lawyers in their family or don't recognize always that law is an option really are able to blossom given the opportunity. And I wanted to say too, if anyone in the audience wants to ask questions either in chat or on your own, please feel free. We would love to hear what you want to hear from our students. So I wanted to ask you, what the most positive experience you've had in terms of internships or classes or meeting other people has been through the Law Pathways program. So Caleb, I'll start with you.
Hi, so definitely the most positive experience from being in the Pathway program is being able to be mentored by people who really want to help you and make and allow you to succeed and grow as a person. I think that, and also, you know, being able to interact with like-minded students who are interested and passionate about pursuing a career in the legal field. I think those two things would be the most significant experience that I've had.
Awesome. And I know you spoke briefly to your internship, but similar to Cynthia, Caleb was like, I'm working waiting tables right now while I apply to all these law schools, and, you know, was able to get connected with lawyers and get an actual job getting experience in the legal field, which is so awesome to see as well. And I find in our area, there are way more opportunities even than I saw when I was living in Chicago to get involved in internships or clerkships for judge or externships, because there is so many less people flocking to Fresno. I love Fresno, but as you all know, so people are really willing to give more time and take on students who, you know, in any big city would be really cutthroat positions as well. Not that Caleb wouldn't get it there, he absolutely would, but just want to highlight that our region has substantial legal need, has tons of careers, has a legal community who wants to work with and help our students, and has really cool opportunities for anyone in this area, no matter where you go to school, who comes and wants to be involved in the legal field. So Amanda, how about for you? What's been the most positive experience?
I would say the entire thing was very positive. There was nothing negative, but one of the things I really, well, obviously the municipal court project was great. Getting to, like I said, work with those legal professionals. You know, the counseling classes that we take are amazing. They really help organize a framework to go off of, and learning how to do the you know, how to certify for to be able to be an advocate, and learning about it. That was a great experience. Counseling really helped organize my thoughts. And that was a very, it probably wouldn't be, I wouldn't be where I'm sitting in front of you today if I hadn't had those classes. They're obviously just very beneficial. People think counseling classes, what is that? But they are very, very, they're very beneficial. I would also like to say that one of the most amazing, I guess, Zoom webinars I've ever done was it was the women, the presentation that Logan had mentioned earlier about the United States Attorney's Office put on about women, and getting to see and you know, the Chief Justice, and getting to listen to their story, their personal stories. Just to be able to learn that they're like me at some point, you know, that we think that, you know, people like Supreme Court justices, they're just like, they're not human because, you know, they're where they are and how they had to get there, and the sacrifices they had to make. But being able to listen to them, like, you know, as like directly, without having, you know, any business and whatever, it really inspired me to know that they are human, and so am I, and someday maybe that's going to be me. So that was probably the best experience, was being able to be there present during that webinar. It was great.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda, and shout out to Lucely for the counseling courses.
Yes,
I was going to just briefly mention that we do have counseling courses specifically for Law Pathways students. I'm pretty sure we're always willing, if someone's already taken it, we take that credit, you know, as well, so they don't necessarily have to with us. But it is fun to have that cohort feel and to be able to focus on legal issues specifically in those sections of the class. And I'm so glad that you came to the webinar. I was going to mention as well that anyone who wants to be on our listserv is welcome to learn about any events that we're sharing with our students, either put on by us or not. Because as we all know, one of the few silver linings of the pandemic has been getting to go to things that maybe you wouldn't travel to actually go to if everything was back in person again. Janelle, how about you? What has been the most positive experience with the program?
Oh yeah, the most positive experience, like they say, that in the networking and getting involved, how the classes, American 11 and the counseling and all the classes, it kind of mesh in with the practicality of getting into it, because I'm from the school of you know, you do your work over here and you get your degree, and then you walk to the door of opportunity and say, hey, let me in. But this actually tells you how to put in the work while you're doing it and to apply what we learn to what we want to, where we want to be. And so, and it's like Amanda say, like all kind of opportunities just appeared out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
I'm surprised that this type of stuff ain't going on with a lot of other things, and it's not bigger than what it could be. Like I was lucky for Logan to come into the class. I was in the civil rights class with Professor well, but
Gilmore?
yeah, oh yeah, there you go, Gilmore. Sorry. But yeah, I was blessed for her to me to even be there at that time and to be able to get this type of information. Because it's almost like it's so much stuff to do. It's like I got to figure out what I want to do now. Not what I want to do, I know what I want to do, but what type of, where I can fit in most, where I can put in my knowledge and experience the most. And it's really helpful. My goals is planned out. I feel confident, like they say. I don't feel as nervous. Like I wouldn't even, years ago, I wouldn't even got on this interview, but it's been real, the whole experience been good.
Thank you so much, Janelle. And yeah, I felt like when I was a student, making connections between my different classes, like, you know, history, I want to say 34, 35, the civil rights history class, and the classes that all of you who are teachers here teach, and the overlaps between those classes, but also with real world experience is such a fun part of being a student. And it's surprising how much connection there is between them when you're looking for it. Cynthia, how about for you?
To go back on what Logan had mentioned earlier, I came into Fresno City as a non-traditional student. I hadn't gone to school in 10 years, so it was a really long time. So even to find community within Lucely and Matt and Logan was amazing, because it was something that I didn't think was going to be able to happen like at a higher level of education. So that was probably the best part about the Law Pathways program. On the classes that we took, they were all great, but specifically I really loved Law and Democracy, which was taught by Matt. It was such a great class. I had Matt for my Chicano Latin Studies class, which was great. Very passionate about everything that he teaches. And we read The Color of Law in that class, and it's something that I constantly go back to, especially now as a gender and women's studies major. I've quoted it so many times within my writing in that class, so it's been great. And I have seen just nothing but positivity from the Law Pathways program. Through being in the Law Pathways program, I was able to get an internship with Esperanza Legal Services, which is a legal clinic in LA, where I assisted attorneys doing I-589 applications and like being direct with clients, which was a great experience. And it wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the fact that I had been on the Law Pathways program. So nothing but opportunities, and it's been great. So thank you again.
Thank you. And I'll ask you guys one last question here. I want to respect everybody's time, but I wanted to ask, you know, why you believe that diversity in the legal profession is important, and what systemic barriers you have seen to people entering the legal profession, either personally or in your community. So Caleb, I'll start with you.
As far as systemic barriers, I would say becoming a lawyer, it's a very time-consuming, energy-needing, and economic, financially, you know, investment in your future. Oftentimes, you know, people have to weigh the pros and cons of taking on extra education as opposed to starting a job and being able, you know, if they have a family, you know, they would have to provide for their family. And, you know, it can be tough for people, you know, and So that's, as far as systemic barriers, that's probably the biggest one I can see. But the Law Pathway program, offers so many resources and opportunities that helps with that, ease the burden of that. And I think that's why what is being done here is so important. And as far as diversity in the legal field, it is imperative. As a Black man growing up in the American society, there's this thing that we have as other Black, when we interact with other Black men, this is this nod of understanding. Like, as soon you walk by another brother and you're just like, I understand you, I see you. That feeling of comfort, that right there, when it's in a lawyer client interaction, that feeling of comfort is comforting. It's trust. It helps with the process, and it allows for even more, I would say, effective lawyering and client communication, and just, it's necessary. That's what I would say to that. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Caleb. I was going to reiterate that the time and expense of law school is overwhelming. So my goal when I'm teaching is to have students leave excited for law. But if people leave saying, I realize it's not for me, I tell them, I saved you $200,000. So you're welcome. You got that out of my class at the very least. Amanda, how about for you? What systemic barriers have you seen? I know as a mom and non-traditional student, and why do you think it's important for representation of our community in the legal profession?
Okay, so as far as seeing firsthand anything like that, I haven't experienced it, but what I do know is that if general stereotypes can be intimidating enough, you don't really need to have those, firsthand experiences. General stereotypes of, how much time law school takes and whatnot. That can be overwhelming, but thank for the Law Pathways program, which talked about how San Joaquin offers these flexible programs where you can do 3, 4, 5 years depending on your situation. That was really helpful. One of the things I noticed about the current state of society and the awareness is that people hopefully are going to use it for positive things. When I see other people of different races, I get excited about it because my husband, he's Indian, Asian Indian. So I really appreciate other people's cultures and what they have to teach me and what I can teach them. And I think that if we all get excited about each other, we can break through whatever barriers do exist, because whether or not I've experienced them, I know that they're there. And having a passion for knowledge is absolutely, it's a driving force. And I think that if we can all get excited about that, about each other's differences, then we can really make this world great. We can, and especially in the legal profession, we can take those stereotypes that exist, because they're out there. When we think of lawyers and criminal defense attorneys and district, we have stereotypes, but we want to kind of shatter those in the future. And I think that that's why diversity is so important in the legal field, so that we can build our community up and learn to appreciate each other and not be intimidated by what it should be. I can't do this because I have kids and I don't have the time for it or whatnot. That is one of the things that I hope to speak to when hopefully someday I become that which I seek.
Thank you, Amanda. Janelle, how about for you? Why do you think it's important, and what barriers have you seen or experienced in entering the law or, higher education in general?
Wow, well, Caleb and Amanda, they broke it down, but the reality is, objectivism is overrated, and we got to be mixed with subjectivity and objectivity. And I think the more diversity we have in these fields, the less somber it will be talking about things that other people or the majority don't understand. And the more diversity, it'll make it easier to not automatically demonize somebody who got different views. And that's all it really boils down to. And in a diverse country, it makes sense. I mean, in order to be prosperous and to really build instead of attacking, all the time and trying to stop and trying to curve this. What it would do, it will really bring together and build. And it ain't just going to help the people that's coming into these fields. It's going to help the other side because it'll give them more knowledge. Because the different countries I went to, no matter how much I read about it, when I went there, it was way different. So I think this experience will be good for everybody in this country in general.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Our personal relationships with someone whose experience is different than ours, I think change us so much more even than things we can read, even though that's important as well. Knowing someone and seeing their experience and believing them, even if you haven't felt it, is truly, I believe, the most transformative thing for all of us in how we think things and approach the world. Cynthia, I know we are close to out of time, but I guarantee you everyone wants to hear what you have to say. If you want to share some barriers you've seen and also why you believe this program and inclusion and a sense of belonging in the legal profession is important.
Yes. So I think everyone has done a great job of explaining, I think what we all have in mind on to the systemic barriers that are happening. But I think it's also really important to note that, especially as people of color, we are not born into a system that was made for us. And it's very clear, specifically within the legal field. So I think we need to take a step and look at how even the legal profession was built on white supremacy and shattering that. So it's really important to be in this program and be in these positions where we can help shape that into what it should be. I sometimes go into these situations where I have imposter syndrome and it's really hard for me to get out of it, but also have to realize that I wasn't born with the systems that were meant for me. So it's about breaking those barriers, about making sure that I am there regardless if it was meant for me or not. So I think it really is just about breaking those barriers. It's about making sure that we are sharing our voices in these spaces that weren't meant for us, specifically here in the legal field.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And honestly, all of what you said was so moving. I kind of hate to do our quick resources slides, but we're going to do them anyway. And I know we're happy to share the PowerPoint with you all, but truly that was so wonderful. And you're being an example of what you're talking about, sharing your experiences for all of us here who might have different backgrounds. So thank you so much. And I will turn it over to Ku and Lucely to close out for today.
So I know we're out of time, but just really quickly, these are just a list of things that you can do if you want to get involved. Please feel free to contact Lucely. Please feel free to contact me and we can set these things up for you, whether it's a visit to the classroom. We will more than willing, share information we have. And then if you go to the next slide, we have some links, right? So about the Law Pathways program, students who are interested can click on the Law Pathways link and be led to some information about us as well as the interest form. And then just the different things we've mentioned here. And of course, I think it's really important to note SJCL's Law School 101 forum, right? If you want information about that, please click there as well. If you have any questions, this is all of our contact information. And if you're interested, we can definitely send out the PowerPoint as well. And then really quickly, I just wanted to thank our student panelists. I know you all are saying great things about Law Pathways program, but I think I speak for all of us when we say that we're so honored that you, chose to allow us to be part of your educational journey. So thank you so much.